Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Outgrow's Marketer of the Month. I'm your host, Dr. Saksham Sharda. I'm the creative director at outgrow.co. And for this month, we're going to interview Christoph Trappe, who is a content strategist at Voxpopme, which is a company that helps users get better customer insights through video research and analysis. Thanks for joining us, Christoph.
Hey, you bet. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to our conversation.
So, before we continue with the podcast, I have a special message from our sponsors, microinfluence.co. Is our audience overwhelmed with being an influencer? Are you running out of ideas for content? Choose from Microinfluence's 1,000+ interactive templates to boost your influence and stand out from the pack. Easily understand your followers, automate your engagement, and categorize your audience. Check out microinfluence.co now. All right, Christoph, we're going to start with a rapid fire round just to break the ice. You get 3 passes. In case you don't want to answer the question, you can just say pass, but try to keep your answers to one word or one sentence only, okay?
We'll give it a try.
Okay. All right, so the first one. How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
I just roll out of bed and go to work. There you go.
Okay, most embarrassing moment of your life?
One time I got an award and I was in the bathroom when they announced my name.
Okay, how many hours of sleep can you survive on?
Oh, I'm getting 7 to 9. No problem.
Fill in the blank. An upcoming marketing trend is blank.
Well, it changes all the time, but I still think live streaming is way underused by most brands.
Okay, the city in which the best kiss of your life happened.
You can't rank any of these kisses. They're all fantastic.
Okay, pick one. Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey.
Probably Dorsey.
The first movie that comes to your mind when I say the word ambition.
I don't really watch movies. Ask me something about sports.
All right, we're gonna pass that question. When did you last cry?
When I last cry, not sure I remember that. It's been a while for sure.
Okay, pass that one too. The biggest mistake of your career.
Biggest mistake of my career. Biggest mistake of my career.
Okay, we'll pass just for the sake of time. How do you relax? It's just a rapid fire, so it's fine. How do you relax?
Just you gotta make time for yourself.
Okay. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Well, it depends how you define coffee. Cups. I mean, but I'm drinking coffee all day long. Usually ice cold coffee. I don't know,
Okay,
4
a
of
habit
those
of
bottles
yours.
probably a day.
Okay, a habit of yours that you hate.
Habit of mine that I hate. I'm not sure I hate anything.
Okay, the most valuable skill you've learned in life.
I think you got to go with the flow, and understand people. I think a lot of people don't get that. They're stuck in their ways.
Okay, so the last rapid fire question: your favorite Netflix show?
Favorite Netflix. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I don't really watch any movies. There's the one they shot in Madrid. I don't remember what that's called. Heist, maybe. That's a good one.
Money Heist, the Spanish one, yeah.
Money
All
Heist.
right.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
All right, well, that's the end of the rapid fire round. We got 3 passes, so you scored 7 on 10. And now we can go on to the bigger questions, which you can answer in your time and in a lengthy way. The first one is, what's your role at Voxpopme exactly, and how do you help the company?
So Voxpopme, I create content, better user experiences for people who are interested in understanding their customers better. So basically, I help them create their live streams, their podcasts, and turn that into content to really, truly throw a parade for our content wherever people go, wherever people are. That's what we'll serve it to them. So content strategy from end to end.
And so I guess this ties this into another major work of yours, which is authentic storytelling. What is it all about? How did you attract more than 1.7 million readers to it?
So, like most projects that I do, it did start more of a experiment. How do I do this? How do I do that? And I just kind of turned that into the authentic storytelling project. And I still blog on there today. And really, I just share tips and tricks, anything I'm working on, and other people can learn from it as well. So, for example, I'm messing around with podcast episode art, and so I blog about it. Should you do it this way or should you do it that way? And I just share all these strategies on there that I'm also implementing myself and trying myself. Sometimes it changes.
So, what do you think then makes marketing stories authentic in the first place?
Well, I mean, first of all, it has to be a real story. If you're just sharing crap that people came up with in a boardroom that's not even happening, probably not very authentic. So you need to figure out what's unique about you, what's different about you, and how you're going to share that story in a way that actually is truthful and authentic and helpful to people. And the other thing is, not everything is always positive. So I'll give you an example. At Voxpopme, we did an article on why you shouldn't do customer feedback, and is that the biggest cornerstone content I have? No, it's not. But 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and there's still companies today that behave this way, they would never create content around that topic. We thought it was important to discuss when you shouldn't do it, and really cover all the different areas. And that's, all those things fall into, push into making it more authentic, I think, long term.
And how do you craft your own story? Because you also have a huge Twitter presence, right? So, how essential has Twitter been for your business growth? And how do you go about crafting your own story?
Yeah, I'm a big Twitter fan, honestly, much more than Facebook, for the most part. But I use the create once, publish everywhere model, and basically what I do is everything I create, I try to use everywhere. So whether that's from live stream to podcast to article to social updates, those kind of things. But Twitter, it's been fantastic over the years, just connecting with people, sharing content, and being out there. So I definitely a big fan of Twitter, especially for companies, especially that are not just local. It's definitely the place to be, in my opinion.
And how do you think a B2B marketing company should go about strategizing its content for Twitter nowadays? Because I think social media is receiving some backlash for being, being too business oriented. So Facebook is pushing businesses away, like, the business pages away. So you don't see much of their content anymore. So how does a B2B marketing company go about doing that?
Well, so you got to remember what their business is, right? So they want you to pay to be shown to people, but there is a mix as well. And I found that social media doesn't drive a lot of direct leads, but I do know for a fact that people go to social media and check out companies. So you do have to share content on somewhat of a schedule. Now, of course, there are tools and to automate that, but you do need to be out there. And then if you have paid strategies, I would tie them together, whether that's through remarketing from your website. I mean, I see it all the time. I see B2B remarketing ads on Facebook. And guess what? I'm not just a consumer on Facebook. I'm still me. I'm still the guy that has whatever business problems I have to solve. And you know, even on Facebook, if I see the same remarketing ad at 8 at night, I might click it. I might go back, and I think that's you have to have that integrated strategy, not just one or the other, honestly.
So, what is one of your favorite examples of a B2B company that is getting content marketing right now?
It's always a tough questions when people ask that because, we're so come and go today. Like, you see companies pop up and you see them, when you don't need them for a second, you see them disappear. Content, I think it was Gathering Content. They did a fantastic job over the years, building their brand. for their CMS platform, basically. Of course, Voxpopme, I think we do a great job there as well. There's of course some of the typical candidates that you see out there. Drift is out there with their content gong, others like that. But those are kind of I think anybody can do it. You just gotta start. I mean, we don't have to overthink everything.
So, what analytics tools and key performance indicators should one use to, evaluate one's social media effectiveness?
See, and this is a good question because people always think everything is so direct, and I mentioned that earlier. Social
Mm,
media, the leads aren't usually direct leads. A lot of times they come from they're indirect leads, right? They are looking for you, they're checking you out, and then they do something else, and then they might come back later. So you do want to look at how many people are you reaching. It still matters how many people you reach when all these people are running around saying we don't care about impressions and they're vanity metrics and whatever. Maybe they are vanity metrics, but it's a numbers game, right? Why does TV advertising still work? Why does and it does still work. People pay a boatload of money to run their ad on TV. And well, the reason they do that is because it's a bunch of people, it's not necessarily as targeted as we would like it to be in some instances, even though that's changing. But you want to look at, what's your reach? Who are you reaching? Are they the right people? Of course, knowing if they're the right people. I know uh, it is getting easier and easier, but again, it is a numbers game, and so you want to weigh that, of course. Analytics, I think social media is a pain. You can use Google Data Studio to pull them all together or other similar tools. But like for live streams, which I focus on a lot currently, like it doesn't pull it in automatically. Or it does there like LinkedIn doesn't even have a thing that says live video views, So um, those are, I think, the tools I would recommend. But be aware of what you're trying to accomplish and how long it takes. If it takes you 8 hours to put together your social media metrics, and they're not that important, or all of them, figure out what are you going to report, what are you going to look at.
You've talked about live streaming a lot. So, what are your opinions on Clubhouse and whether you think Twitter's trying to rival it with Twitter Spaces, etc.? So, what do you think is the future of these apps and those social
But
networks?
yeah, it's interesting, right? Because it always depends on what's currently in the headlines. So I don't blame you for saying it, asking the way you did. So Clubhouse, Twitter Spaces, and now Facebook has another one that's coming out. I don't remember the name
Yeah.
now. I just signed up for it, but um, I'm not talking about those apps for the most part. I think there is space to try them. The biggest problem I find currently is that you have to show up live, and it's only live, right? After you're
Mm.
live, it disappears, which really kind of breaks the create once, publish everywhere model. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. And there are some people who now record their Clubhouse sessions, which you're only supposed to do with permission. So they put a big thing on there saying recording. But it's a little too short-lived for me to make a big priority. What I'm usually talking about is we have all these B2B brands out there doing podcasts, and they start them. And a podcast network is basically a new network for everybody. And then they put all this effort and work into it and resources, and they have 20 downloads, which isn't horrible when you first start, but it will feel horrible to most companies. So what I have found is that when you live stream your podcast, so for example, we're recording it right here, and then you're probably going to edit it, but live streaming it gets you more people, and it gets in front of people in the networks you already have. So let's say you have a good LinkedIn following, Twitter following, YouTube following, Facebook maybe, Amazon perhaps, maybe Twitch, whatever. Why not do it live and push it out there? So before you even publish the podcast, you already have, a bunch of listens and views, and it's really a better way to get the content out there. Now, some people will argue, "Oh my goodness, well, we need to edit out every and I don't know if I've said any ums and ahs yet. We'll have to Your editor will have to tell us later, but is there real value in some of those edits? I'm not so sure. Like, I don't know if it truly affects the performance. Maybe it does, but either way, it's not about debating editing podcasts or not. It's about how do you get more of the podcast? And I do think you get more out of the podcast by live streaming the recording to the networks you've spent years building.
So, what do you do in your case? You just live stream it immediately on what platforms?
So I have a recording today at 11:08, and I always do 8 minutes after the hour. And the reason is because I don't want the guests to show up early. So if we say, hey, we'll meet at 8:30, I don't want to say, oh, we're going live at 8:30. Please show up 20 minutes early or 10 minutes or 15, whatever. And basically what we'll do, it's really just the business storytelling podcast recorded live. And we will have a conversation. There'll be an opening music, there'll be closing music, there'll be lower thirds, et cetera, et cetera. And we're just recording it live while we're live streaming to Amazon, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And then the other thing is you can schedule those posts so they show up early and people see it. So you get even more exposure.
What do you mean you can schedule the posts so that they show up early?
So when I have a post, when I have a live stream, right, that I'm going to do, I go into whatever platform I use, which could be Switcher Studio or Restream, or I think StreamYard has it too, I'm sure. I go in there and I set up the live stream and I say, we're going live at this time. And then that post shows up on my profile whenever I set it up. Now, you can only do it a week out, right? But for a week, it's already promoting itself because it's already showing up. And then when I go live, the video will play in that same post.
Oh, I see. All right. So, and this is something that will happen across all the social platforms. Because I
Well,
know Instagram, for instance, like lets everyone know when you're live, but do other networks do that as well?
correct. So this is you promote it at a time. It's all in one place. And then once you go live, LinkedIn will push it to the top and then it'll tell people you're live. Now on LinkedIn, you can do this. On YouTube, you can do it. On Facebook, you can do it. On Twitter, you can. Twitter, there's no scheduling. Basically, it goes out when you actually go live. Instagram, you're not supposed to multi-stream to. You can, but you're not supposed to. So if Instagram is your main channel, I would be careful. They might have problems with it. They might suspend you. You're definitely on the wrong side of that terms and condition line. But just be aware that that's against the rules. But there is a tool, Yellow Duck, that you can tie to Restream or Switcher through an RTMP, and then basically push it to Instagram as well. I don't usually do that because Instagram is a different dimension, right, than the others. So it's
Different
really
ball
a
game.
pain to get that right.
And so, do you at all try to do live streams on Instagram, or are you just sticking to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter? What else did you mention?
Amazon, YouTube,
Amazon, yeah.
and
Amazon.
LinkedIn. And so I really don't focus much on LinkedIn when it comes to that, just because it's just the effort. So I always think about a return on effort. So if I take my podcast and I distribute it to 16 channels, which I currently do, that's the same amount of effort as it is to distribute it to one, right? Because I just push it into anchor.fm and then it goes to all these different channels. Now, let's say there was a new channel and they would require me to upload the file to that channel, and then I had to do everything separately. So now my return on effort is going up, right? And so that's something to always keep in mind. How much work is involved? How easy is it? And that's why I'm a big fan of the multi-streaming concept.
So, what are some of the best digital resources that have helped you along the way? Not just for live streaming, but also for everything you do at Voxpopme.
Well, it's always a good question. I mean, if you mean like, thought leaders to follow and whatnot, I think that's always a good idea to read up. I really just, this is why I kind of hate the question about who specifically is doing something good, because like unless it's right in front of me, it's really hard to remember in my opinion. I follow on Twitter, I follow people, and when they show up, I read their stuff, I catch up. But here's the reality of digital marketing. You don't learn how to ride a bike by reading about riding a bike. You need to
Mhm.
you need to actually go do it. You're not going to learn how to podcast to by reading about podcasting. You're not going to learn how to write articles by reading about writing articles. Those things can give you ideas, but I have I'm definitely more on the side of let's just try it, see if it works. And certainly I kind of pay attention to things flying by on Twitter. And that's really where I read most of my news and content nowadays. I mean, even like my regular news, like the New York Times and stuff, that's kind of where I catch them.
So you've segmented your Twitter feed into news sources, or have you done any kind of segmentation? Because I think you can make Twitter lists, right? Or are you just receiving
Yeah.
all of this information at a go?
Yeah, you can, but I mean, I'm just looking at my feed. There's some notifications I've turned on. I tried Twitter lists a while back, and then I kind of forget about them. I know a lot of people do that. I don't use Twitter lists really for the most part. Um, when people are just sharing content that really doesn't um, inspire me or relate to me, or I'm not interested, I might just unfollow them. Depending who they are. Sometimes I might just mute them so I don't have to see them, or if they're talking to me and they're rude or something. But I mean, I just look at the feed and try to be selective on who I follow. Of course, that's easier said than done, quite frankly.
Yeah. And what do you think, since you are so active on Twitter, what do you think, what is your opinion on a certain amount of fear that is on Twitter now that one might get cancelled for something that they might say? And so it's a thing that is developed in social media in general. So what do you think? What's your take on the whole issue?
Well, I think that's a very interesting way how you phrase that question, because somebody's fear to get canceled, right? So let me unpack that a little bit. So first of all, you're not going to get canceled, right? Because it's a business. It's Twitter. It's free, right? It's not um you don't have a right to be on Twitter. Now I know the ACLU has a slightly different opinion on that, and they see there's some danger in that. But when people post harmful crap on Twitter, they absolutely should be banned from Twitter. Totally. Why wouldn't they? Right? You incite violence, you or whatever, you should be banned. Why wouldn't you be? Are you gonna be banned by saying your content sucks? I doubt it. I mean, is there any
Mm.
examples like that, or are we talking about serious, um, public safety examples? I mean, is there any examples out there where somebody got banned for just, being a jerk, or, or just saying, "I disagree," or something? Which is, by the way, totally dumb to say, "I disagree," like, offer something additional to the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, banning, I guess, is a different term than like banning, I guess, is based on Twitter rules, right? So as soon as you break a rule, you get banned. But cancellation, on the other hand, is like, you say something and then there is a wave against you. And then in the case of, I don't know, who was the one who recently just uh, deactivated his account? He's in 30 Rock. What's his name? Alec Baldwin. He just went offline, So what do you think? So, if one is creating a story around oneself, how does one handle these waves? And I think Clubhouse, in a sense, is also a response to that, because in Clubhouse, you can just literally go and say anything because it's a live room. And even if you get banned, the room has really just happened. It's like it's not that content was going
Right.
to stay on Clubhouse anyway later. It's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. Slightly different question, really, but, at the
yeah.
end of the day, I think there's a lot of jerks out there, right, that are just,
Mm,
uh, that's how they're gonna behave. I think it also depends on your level of who you are. So, a celebrity like Alec Baldwin, I mean, you can turn off replies so people can reply. I mean, I do that sometimes, and then sometimes people get upset by that and they retweet it and they make some stupid comment. Like, you
mm,
just have to you just have to like not pay attention to it. Don't check your notifications if you're at that level, you know? Block people. I mean, yes, you're absolutely correct. There is people that are just rude, that don't know how to communicate. I see it all the time. I I actually probably my worst experience is Facebook groups. And I'm telling you, I don't think I've been in a Facebook group yet that is really worth my time. And usually it starts happening when there's more and more people in it, right? So, but people don't know. Some people just don't know how to write in a nice way. Everything is accusatory, or they're picking the wrong words, and maybe, that's just how they talk and they're the same way offline. I don't know if that's the case a lot of times or not. But I think you just have to ignore it, or
Mm.
or use the tools that people don't even get to reply. I saw Noah Fant, former Iowa Hawkeye and Denver Bronco tight end, and he has replies turned off on most of his tweets. Like, so he doesn't have to listen to that crap, you know?
Hmm. Fair. Yeah, I like that concept because it totally applies to like Insta stories or Twitter stories because no one can actually reply to them. And if they do, it's not a public comment. So it doesn't usually lead to the kind of waves that you would see. But yeah, okay. So one last question for you. What would you be doing if not working for Voxpopme right now? So what would you be doing in life if not this?
Oh, I don't know, but I went to school to be a journalist, and and basically, of course, the journalism world changed quite a bit in the last few decades. But definitely something along these lines. I couldn't tell you anything different that I would be doing. I mean, I'm not going to be, I'm not a car salesman or anything like that. I'm a content person, so hard to imagine a world where I would be doing something completely different.
Yeah, but slightly different than you would be in journalism proper.
Yeah, but honestly, what I do now, it's pretty close to journalism, except
Yeah,
it's not
fair.
for a media company. It's for a company.
Mm. All right, fair. All right, well, thanks everyone for joining us for this month's episode of Outgrow's Marketer of the Month. That was Christoph Trappe, who is a content strategist at Voxpopme, which is a company that helps users get better customer insights through video research and analysis. Thanks for joining us, Christoph.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Do check out their website for more details, and we'll see you once again next month with another Marketer of the Month.